Every country on Earth is drowning in debt. Trillions upon trillions of dollars, stacked like invisible chains around the global economy. The United States owes more money than it has ever owed in history. Europe, Japan, China, all buried under obligations they can never fully repay. But here's the question nobody asks. If everyone owes money, who exactly is being paid? The answer is more unsettling than you think, because the world doesn't owe money to one powerful enemy, it owes money to itself. And that illusion is holding the entire system together.
Debt is often described as a burden, something negative, something dangerous. But in reality, debt is the foundation of the modern world. It is the hidden architecture behind every government, every market, and every major historical event of the last 300 years. Wars are fought with debt. Governments survive on debt. Economic growth itself depends on debt. Without it, the system collapses. To understand how we reached a world where global debt exceeds $300 trillion, we have to go back to a time before banks, before stock markets, before digital money ever existed. The idea of national debt was not born in finance, it was born in war. In the late 17th century, England was locked in an expensive conflict with France. The crown was running out of gold. Taxes alone were not enough to fund the war, so the king did something revolutionary. He borrowed money from private merchants. In return, those merchants received something far more powerful than gold, a government promise, a permanent stream of interest payments backed by future taxes. To manage this new system, the Bank of England was created. For the first time in history, a government could spend money it didn't yet have. That single idea changed the world. This was the birth of government bonds, promises that could be bought, sold, traded, and inherited. France copied the model. The Netherlands refined it. The newly formed United States adopted it to fund its revolution and later its expansion.
Debt stopped being a sign of weakness. It became a sign of credibility. If a government could borrow, it meant investors trusted it to survive. Empires no longer needed to conquer land for gold. They could issue bonds and extract interest instead. Power moved from battlefields to balance sheets. Fast forward to today, and debt has become the most important product on Earth. The United States owes tens of trillions of dollars. Japan's debt is larger than its entire economy. Europe carries massive obligations. Even countries rich in oil or exports rely heavily on borrowing. Every country owes. Every bank lends. Every citizen is both a debtor and a creditor, whether they realize it or not. Your taxes help pay interest. Your pension holds government bonds. Your savings depend on financial stability. So who actually owns the debt? Let's look at the United States. A large portion of its debt is held internally. American banks, pension funds, mutual funds, insurance companies, and even the Federal Reserve itself own U.S. government bonds. Foreign countries like Japan and China do hold American debt, but far less than people imagine. Most of America's debt is owed to Americans. The government issues bonds. Institutions buy them. The central bank often buys them back by creating new money.
Interest payments circulate through the system and return to investors, retirement accounts, and financial institutions. It's a closed loop. And this isn't just an American story. It's global. Japan lends to the United States. The United States lends to Europe through international institutions. Europe lends to developing nations. Developing nations send money back by buying Western bonds. Every country holds someone else's promise. It's like a table where everyone has borrowed chips from the next player. The game continues only because nobody stands up and demands repayment all at once. Behind this entire structure sits the most powerful force of all, financial markets. Markets decide which governments can borrow cheaply and which will suffer. When investors lose confidence, currencies collapse, interest rates explode, and governments fall. Democracy chooses leaders, but markets determine survival. At the center of this system are central banks. Central banks do not simply manage money, they create it through debt. When a central bank buys government bonds, it creates new currency in exchange. One institution's liability becomes another's asset. Every dollar in circulation is tied to a debt somewhere else. There is no such thing as debt-free money. For decades, this system has survived on one thing: confidence. As long as investors believe governments will keep paying interest, even if they never repay the full amount, the system continues to function. But when confidence breaks, the consequences are brutal.
Greece learned this during its debt crisis. As investors panicked, borrowing costs surged. International institutions stepped in with bailouts, but at a price: spending cuts, tax increases, unemployment. An entire generation paid for financial collapse. Argentina experienced repeated defaults, turning debt into a national trauma. Sri Lanka faced shortages and political chaos when it ran out of foreign currency. When the system breaks, creditors suddenly become visible. Rating agencies, international lenders, anonymous bondholders whose decisions shape entire nations. Yet, even after collapse, the logic never changes. Old debt is replaced with new debt. Loans are restructured. The system resets and continues. That's because modern debt is not designed to be repaid. It is designed to be rolled over. Governments do not plan to eliminate their debt. They refinance it endlessly, issuing new bonds to pay off old ones. Interest becomes the true cost, the price of stability. This isn't conspiracy, it's policy. The global economy depends on this process. Government bonds are treated as the safest assets in the world. Banks use them as collateral. Pension funds rely on them. Central banks treat them as money itself. If governments suddenly paid off all their debt, the consequences would be catastrophic. Financial institutions would lose their safest assets. Money supply would shrink. Deflation would crush economies. Debt is not a flaw in the system. It is the system. That's why political promises to eliminate national debt are illusions. The real goal is not repayment, it's sustainability, keeping debt attractive enough that investors continue to believe. Because once belief disappears, numbers stop mattering. And here's the part few people talk about. Debt does not benefit everyone equally. Interest payments flow upward, from taxpayers and workers to institutions and investors. Debt is not just a transfer between countries, it's a transfer between classes. Those who own debt earn, those who service it pay. That's why rising debt and rising inequality move together. From households to nations, debt shapes power. Creditors are not villains, debtors are not victims. They are parts of the same engine. But engines require fuel. And when borrowing can no longer keep up with promises, the illusion breaks. At the top of this system, there is no single enemy to blame. Not China, not Wall Street, not the IMF alone. The system is collective, built by governments, markets, institutions, and society itself. Debt once meant bondage. Today, it means balance. But balance depends on trust, and trust is fragile. When confidence fails, debt reveals its true nature, a promise that can never be kept forever.